were created by the military era in order to thwart the secessionist bid of Biafra. It has, however, been renamed Children's Day in Nigeria, and it has been like that for quite a while now. So happy Children's Day to all children in the land and even beyond. Of course, each and every one of us, we are children of some parents. And of course, even if you are 70 and you still have a parent or both parents, you are still a child, and no child, of course. I welcome you to the show. It is Political Update this Monday afternoon. Well, my mandate of the show is to keep you updated on events, political events, and events also that has to do with governance and that impact and affect our lives in one way or the other. This afternoon, we're going to be looking into the Nigerian landscape and what are the trending issues. Of course, one of the major trending issues or stories, it's a huge one, is the deposition. The repeal. Before the deposition, there had to be a repeal. The repeal of the law, balkanizing, I think that is a word, because that is exactly what Abdullah Ganduje did in 2019. It was the balkanization of the Kano Emirate. If you look at the history of Kano Emirate specifically, you will recall that actually a part of the Kano Emirate went away with Jigawa when it was excised out of the old Kano state. So for Ganduje to have gone ahead to even further take apart that Kano Emirate was an act that was politically motivated, not taken into consideration the history, the culture of the people. Political expediency took preeminence, and history has a very, very rare and instructive way of dealing with situations. In 2024, it was in 2020. It was in 2020 that Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, the 14th Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, was deposed. Well, Mohammed Sanusi being who he was, of course he became Emir after he was removed by Dr. Ebele Goodluck Jonathan as the governor of Central Bank. And what was it that led to his removal? He kept saying oil money was missing. He was the governor of the Central Bank. He kept saying things that, gave the government of Jonathan, make them uncomfortable. He was suspended. Of course, he could not be removed. And I think eventually he was removed. Of course, I was told here yesterday that the making of Sanusi, the Emir of Kano, was actually what saved him from security operatives swooping in on him, arresting him, and the rest of it. So Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso was the governor, and Ganduje was the deputy, and of course they were allies. And of course, he sounded like a progressive. SLS, as they called him way back then, sounded like a progressive. I mean, he was talking positively, he was talking about poverty, he was talking about the economy, and he was saying things that were attractive to the progressive. Of course, when he was made Emir, Kano was packed full of, including Bola Ahmed Tinubu then. So, now that Ganduje, Mohammed Sanusi said so many things, he even spoke against the institution to which he belongs. He castigated the leadership of the North. And of course, when you talk leadership in the North, you cannot take the royalty out. The royalty in the North is responsible not just for the spiritual well-being, but also for providing leadership, not just at the spiritual level, but also at the political level. In the northern part of this country, we have seen poverty, the one they call multidimensional poverty, ravaging the northern part. And it is the northern parts of this country that has held power more than any other part of this country. And Sanusi was saying that this was not showing. How could you have an army of hungry, unemployed, unskilled, unschooled, or uneducated, that they were a living and active danger to society? Of course, if there was anything to ignite it, of course, one of the victims will be royalty itself. He pointed out the fact that the political leadership and the spiritual leadership in the north were in bed together, impoverishing the people. And this is actually the arrangement. The spiritual leadership is in control of the masses who serve as political foot soldiers. So the political leadership needs the spiritual leaders to deliver to them those foot soldiers, because those foot soldiers listen to and obey instruction from the spiritual leadership. And of course, since that is the case, the political leadership find it convenient to be in bed with the spiritual leadership, who provide them with political mileage. And what does the political leadership do in return? They allow the spiritual leadership to continue the exploitation of the people in the name of faith and religion. So when Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, continued his harsh words, when Ganduje wanted to build the first overhead bridge in Kano, Sanusi Lamido rose up and spoke vehemently against it. That was not what Kano needed. Kano needed to educate its children. Kano needed to deal with poverty and some basic fundamentals that define humanity. And he never relented. He went everywhere. He not only spoke against what was happening in Kano, he even spoke against the federal authorities of Muhammadu Buhari, who was then president. He was eventually deposed. When he was deposed, of course, he was to be restricted to one village in Nasarawa. He went to court, and the court said, no, you could not resist him. He came to Lagos. Lagos had been his home. I think he actually acted at King's College. So Lagos had been his home. He came to Lagos, and he was hosted by Hubert. It was Hubert Wigwe that hosted him for the better part of his time in Lagos. And eventually, Abdullahi Ganduje completed his 2 terms in office. He created 5 emirates out of one single Kano emirate. And when this happened, Sanusi went quietly away. But now, the grandmaster of Kano politics, Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso, who was the direct boss of Abdullahi Ganduje. Abdullahi Ganduje was the deputy governor. And it is a rare occurrence in this country for governors to make their deputies the governor. Very rare. He ensured that he transferred power to him. He nominated him and made sure he became governor. We'll be back shortly. Yes, thank you so much for staying with us. Solutions 93.9 FM is the station. Political Update is the show this Monday afternoon. Children's Day nationwide in Nigeria. Before we proceed any further, we're going to be taking political roundup across the landscape of Nigeria.
This is the political roundup. Starting from the celebration today, President Bola Tinubu has pledged that his administration will spare no effort in ensuring Nigeria's children have a solid foundation for realizing their dreams. In a statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, to mark the 2024 Children's Day celebration today, President Tinubu emphasized that society mirrors the collective family units, urging the preservation of principles that foster a wholesome, nurturing, and thriving nation. Moving on to the crisis in Kano State government has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to intervene in the ongoing tussle over the throne of the Emir of Kano. Kano State Deputy Governor Aminu Gwazo, who made the call during a press conference at the government house today, said President Tinubu's intervention would save the state from descending into chaos. He also retracted the statement accusing the National Security Advisor (NSA) Nuhu Ribadu of interfering in the Kano Emirates tussle. Moving on, the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, sitting in Abuja today, upheld the election that produced Governor AYODEJI of Bayelsa State. A three-man panel led by Justice Adekunle Adeleye dismissed the petition filed by the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Timipre Silva, and the party for lacking in merit. In a unanimous decision, the tribunal held that the petitioners failed to prove any credible evidence to back up any of the allegations they raised against the re-election victory of Diri. And still on election matters, the Kogi State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has confirmed Usman Ododo as the governor of Kogi State. Today, the tribunal upheld the election of the All Progressives Congress APC candidate, dismissing petition filed by Muritala Ajaka of the Social Democratic Party SDP. There was drama in Edo State today when an angry mob suspected to be thugs loyal to the national chairman of the Labour Party LP attacked protesters believed to be party supporters from the Edo State chapter who were at the party secretariat to demand Abure's sack. A detachment of armed policemen and operatives of the Department of State Security (DSS) intervened when the thugs started throwing stones into the nearby secretariat of the Nigeria Union of Journalists in pursuit of reporters who were covering the fracas. And that's the political roundup.
Yes, thank you so much for staying with us. That was the political roundup. And of course, Kano came up again in that political roundup. It came up prominently. Yes, moving on regarding the narration of events in Kano. So, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, the leader of what had become the Kwakwansia movement, a very massive grassroots movement, in Kano and even beyond. And he was also the presidential candidate of NNPP, the party he floated. You will recall that after Ganduje left office after 8 years, he succeeded Rabi Musa Kwakwanso. The relationship must have been so chubby that he nominated him, backed him for election as governor. But apparently things went south between the two of them. Eventually, when Sanusi Lamido Sanusi was impeached as Mohammed Sanusi II, the 14th Emir of Kano, he relocated to Lagos, and of course, his visibility did not go down. He remained visible, he remained vocal, and he remained talking about issues that pertain to Nigeria's health politically and economically. During the last series of general elections in 2023, the successor, the APC candidate that was to succeed Abdullahi Ganduje lost the election. The case went on and on in the up to the Supreme Court. It was the Supreme Court that eventually gave victory to the candidate of NNPP. the party of Rabi Musa Kwakwanso. It was a tough election. It was a rough one too, and tension was high in Kano. So when the new governor came in, he tried to undo many things. The destruction of physical structures that were put in place were, destroyed, pulled down, for whatever reason. And then suddenly we heard that they were going to reverse the removal of Sanusi Lamido. Eventually on Wednesday, the State Assembly in Kano passed the repeal law and passed it over to the governor for assent. He assented to it and summoned the kingmakers. And the kingmakers gave their approval, and he announced the reappointment of the 14th Emir of Kano, now as the 16th Emir. That was when the drama started to play out. It was said that Aminu Adobayero was, as at that time, with the Awujale of Ijebuland. Of course, it was interpreted as a move to reach the president through the Awujale of Basikiru Adetono, to prevail on the president, to restrain the Kano state government from removing him. But we heard from Sanusi that the president resisted all efforts in that direction. It was out of time when he was ousted from office, and Sanusi Lamido Sanusi Mohammed Sanusi II returned to Kano. And on his return to Kano, he took residence in the palace. And of course, attempts were made by Aminu Adobayero to return to Kano, but that was prevented by the government of Kano State. In fact, his motorcade was already at the Kano airport to receive him, so that was prevented. But eventually, Mohammed Sanusi II returned on Friday, but eventually around 4:30 a.m., Aminu Adobayero landed at Kano airport. You will say 4:30 a.m. Questions are being raised in this regard. The emir arrives by air. Apparently, it is usually 1 hour flight either from Lagos or far less from Abuja. That means he probably left Lagos around 3:30 a.m. No such flight will take off without security clearance by the authorities, by the powers that be. He got security clearance to take off in Kano, to take off in Lagos, and to land at that hour. They are not usually, if Lagos was, you could fly anytime in Lagos, in and out of Lagos. Kano, yes, an international, but you could not just fly in and out, especially in that security-related flight. He landed in Kano and proceeded to the mini palace in Nasarawa, making it look that Kano had 2 emirs. But his return was based on an ex parte order issued by a federal high court in Abuja. And people asked, what is a federal high court business in a chieftaincy matter? Chieftaincy matters, we are told by lawyers, is exclusively the reserve of the state through the state assemblies and the executive branch of government. Why then would a federal high court give an ex parte order in this regard? There is also the speculation that the judge that gave the order was actually physically out of the Nigerian space. I remember asking the lawyer if orders could be granted virtually, because we saw during COVID that court sessions were held virtually. So if court orders in that regard could be given virtually. And I recall that just last week, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria was talking about issuance of ex parte orders by judges in the country. People are asking, what will happen now? Will the man be reported to the NJC? What will happen? You give an order regarding a chieftaincy matter that is the exclusive preserve of the state assemblies to make laws regarding it, and issuing an order in what I call remotely. These are the issues. The judiciary is the third arm of the government, and especially it is the arbiter. It is the one that interprets our laws and constitution. People are asking, what role is the judiciary playing? And of course, we also had the government of Kano State accusing, frontally accusing Nuhu Ribadu of facilitating the return of Emir Aminu Ado Bayero to Kano in the dead of the night. Of course, he refuted that vehemently. And we saw, like we had in the political roundup, the deputy governor of Kano State apologizing and actually saying that they were misled. When the chief security officer of a state and his deputy lay claim to be misled on information as sensitive as that. But the fact remains that Adebayo returned to Kano. There seemed to be two emirs. He was brandishing a court order that state status quo should remain. And we saw the security agencies, the army, the police, DSS come out. We actually had the commissioner of police in Kano State, a federal agency, saying that they were going to enforce court order. And when the governor actually ordered the arrest of Aminu Adebayo, that was when the commissioner of police responded and said they were going to enforce the order that they have. When Nigerians who talk about restructuring go about shouting restructuring, they may not seem to have a full grasp and understanding of what needs to be restructured in Nigeria. People think it is just the political configuration of Nigeria that needs what they call restructuring. Believe you me, we need to reconfigure this union, this federal union. There's a governor constitutionally charged with securing lives and property of the state residents. Yet, a commissioner of police does not even take orders from him. It is a situation that puts the chief executive of the state and the chief security officer virtually in jeopardy. In Oyo State, for instance, the only security agency under the control of the state is the Amotekun. And of course, we know the location of Amotekun when it comes to weaponry and other factors that defines an apparatus of coercion that the state requires. So, it is also in the news already. And people are saying the president should intervene, the president should step in. Well, in what capacity? And there is also the Ganduje factor, the political factor. Ganduje was one of the men that committed themselves to the presidential bid and ambition of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the very early days. He was visible, he was everywhere and all over the place with then candidates or even aspirant, not even a candidate here, with the aspirant Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He practically abandoned his job in Kano and followed Tinubu everywhere. He committed, and he committed totally. He was expected to be a member of the cabinet, but somehow he was sacrificed. Yes, I use that word deliberately and intentionally. He was sacrificed and made the chairman of the party. And in Nigeria, and considering the type of party democracy that we practice, anyone made a party chairman is an expendable. It is also been said that Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso is likely to move back to the APC. And it is clear that he and his team are more formidable than Abdullahi Ganduje. Will the president sacrifice Ganduje for 2027? Well, someone told me actually that, well, in politics, the only thing that determines relationship is interest. When there's a convergence of interests, well, anyone whose interest does not converge with yours, you sacrifice. It is looking like Abdullahi Ganduje will be sacrificed. In fact, the plan to sacrifice him had been on even before the emir's brouhaha. There's also already pressures to move the chairmanship to the North Central. People are saying it is only an attempt to get Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso back into the party and hand Kano over to him. What will become the fate of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, of Abdullahi Ganduje? Bola Ahmed Tinubu he is not known to be a man that sacrifices and humiliates even those who stood against him. We have seen him even rehabilitate some of them that stood against him. Well, is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso so important that he will sacrifice Abdullahi Ganduje for him on the altar of getting Kano into the kitty in his re-election bid of 2027? That takes us even also to Rivers, another state considered strategic in Nigeria's political landscape at the presidential election level. People are asking, people are wondering, what will the strategy be? What will the master of the game, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the master strategist, what and what will he do? Well, Mohammed Sanusi II, the 14th and now also the 16th Emir of Kano, is back in the saddle. There were protests in Kano against him by the supporters of Aminu Adobayero because he had started functioning officially. He met some chiefs, village chiefs and all of that. But we saw Aminu Adobayero said that law will take its course. But according to a BBC report this afternoon, Aminu Adobayero has said that he was throwing in the towel and he has actually vacated the palace, the mini palace in Nasarawa. I recall that when Sanusi Lamido Sanusi was inaugurated into office as the Emir of Kano, I recall him saying that it is the desire, fervent desire of everyone with blue blood in the north to become an Emir. But as soon, he said, as soon as one is appointed or nominated and made the Emir, because they are all brothers, that's how he put it, things simmer down. That is unlike the conflict we see in this part of the country. When people go to court, we have seen Obas removed after 20 years on the throne here. We have so many cases in Yoruba land as we speak. Obas have not, vacant stools have not been filled due to long-drawn, issues and conflicts regarding who becomes the new king. That is a lesson for this part. Adobayero has thrown in the towel and vacated the mini palace in Nasarawa. of course, that with the departure of Aminu Ado Bayero from the palace in Nasarawa, we will see an end to this. And Kano will be won again. Don't forget that this is not the first time it is happening in Kano. Abubakar Rimi issued a query and suspended Alhaji Ado Bayero, the father of Aminu Ado Bayero, who was then the emir of Kano. And of course, all hell was let loose in Kano. And I remember the secretary to the government of the state was murdered in that violent uprising. Kano is a cosmopolitan city, the home of Aminu Kano, the leader of the Talakawas. Therefore, anything that will infringe on the peace of Kano certainly will affect Nigeria as a whole. I'll be back shortly.
Every little thing that goes wrong, we start to blame the government. We know everything that goes wrong because we are part of the government. Let's save Nigeria, so Nigeria won't die. Which way Nigeria? Which way Nigeria? Tell me, which way to go? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. Inefficiency and indiscipline is ruining the country now. Corruption here, there, and everywhere. Inflation is soaring high. Let's save Nigeria, so Nigeria won't die. Which way Nigeria? Which way Nigeria? Which way to go? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. Oh, sure, sure. I want to know which way Nigeria is heading to. We made mistakes during the oil boom, not knowing that was our doom. Some people now have everything, while many, many have nothing. Let's save Nigeria, so Nigeria won't fall. Which way Nigeria? Which way Nigeria? Which way to go? I love my fatherland. Oh yeah. I want to know. Revolution is a reality. Let's give it a chance to grow. Let's join our hands to farm the land so we can have enough food to show. Let's save Nigeria so Nigeria won't die.
Yeah, thank you so much for staying with us. This Solutions 93.9 FM here in the sprawling city of Ibadan. Yes, Political Update is the show, and we're talking about the unfolding drama and saga in Kano. Yes, just before we went to that break, information reaching us is that Aminu Ado Bayero, the deposed emir, has departed after receiving some district heads, has departed the Nasarawa Quarters mini palace. We'll keep you updated on that. And now to the man, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, Mohammed Sanusi II, CON. Well, of course, you recall that he was the governor of Central Bank. Before that, he was at the First Bank, where he was a executive risk manager. Who is this man? Of course, he is also called, he has a title, he's known by the title of the Khalifa Sanusi II. He is the spiritual leader of the Tijaniya Sufi order in Nigeria and the emir of the ancient city of Kano. He's also a member of the Dabo dynasty and was born in Kano in 1961 into the royal family as the grandson of Muhammad Sanusi I. Muhammad Sanusi I was also removed from office. He succeeded his great uncle Ado Bayero to the throne on 8th June 2014, assuming the regnal name Muhammad Sanusi II. Of course, he was always advocating for cultural reform in Nigeria, and he was dethroned in 2020. And of course, was also succeeded by his cousin, Aminu Ado Bayero, after the balkanization of Kano. Now, what are the essentials of Muhammad Sanusi Lamido? What brought him into the limelight? What put him in trouble? In fact, it is advocacy. It is something totally unusual in the northern parts of Nigeria. A member of royalty at that level, advocating for a cultural change that can change the dynamics, that will clearly alter the dynamics of power and influence in the northern parts. In fact, his advocacy is against, in quotes now, against even his own, his own area of influence. Some have argued that his advocacy had made the caliphate in Sokoto uncomfortable and made him very, very popular. With his return to the throne, will Sanusi Lamido, will he relent? Is he likely to relent? Will he continue to, well, it is said, criticize? Will he continue to point out? People say he has access. Why should he publicly do these things? But maybe after counseling privately, the government, whether the state or federal, goes on to do whatever they want to do, and it goes public with his opinion. Of course, he's a man deep in knowledge and speaks from that location. Therefore, whatever he says cannot just be dismissed with a wave of a hand or merely wished away. It became a pain in the necks of Jonathan government that finally removed him from office as governor of Central Bank. It also became a pain to Kano State government, his domain. And he was removed from office. His friends have brought him back to correct the distortion that Abdullahi Ganduje embarked upon based on political expediency. Will Sanusi Lamido, will he revert to the dignified, silent, non-talking role of monarchs in the north? That is most unlikely. The essential Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is more of an activist. And will he ever relent? Will he talk himself into trouble again? Either with his friends in Kano or even with the federal authorities. I dare to say that yes, Sanusi will keep on talking, and he may likely talk himself into collision course, even with his friends in Kano and even Rome. You can counter that, you can project that, and it makes the caliphate look uncaring of the Talakawas. And what is he asking for? Sanusi Lamido is saying that the northern parts of Nigeria has held power for a longer period than any other section in this union. Yet, they need to control things, they just ruled indirectly through them. Sanusi Lamido is saying education is key, education is basic, educate the people. And of course, you know the consequences of educating the people. An educated mind is a